A little Japanese town's Ichikawa High School is where the narrative begins. The senior students are receiving their most recent test results in the classroom. Miyamoto Asuka, a kind but academically inept student, is one of the participants. She receives a score of 0 even though the test was the easiest thus far. Yoshida, who is Asuka's lover, sees the silver lining and affirms that 0 is Asuka's fortunate number. The instructor reprimands them because she knows Asuka's future is grim if she doesn't start studying. After that, Asuka has to take another history test. She is tasked with naming a monument in the first query that is well known for granting wishes in exchange for a coin. Even though she is unable to fill in the blank, she chooses to write the name of an arbitrary location, Gachimo, instead of leaving the spot empty. The instant she writes the name down on the paper, dazzling light can be seen outside the window. An odd route of jungle spontaneously appears somewhere in the city. On their way to school the next day, she and Yoshida stumble across the route. It intrigues them since they don't recall it being there before today. The pair chooses to investigate it after allowing curiosity to win. After a short distance, Asuka tosses a coin and hopes to score 100 in the upcoming exam. The two then return to school. Asuka receives a score of 5 out of a possible 100 in the results of the previous exam. On that day, the students will take another test on global politics. They are asked who the current Prime Minister of Japan is in the first question. Instead of leaving the page blank since Asuka is at a loss, she puts Yoshida's name on it. After that, she can't answer any of the questions, so she instead takes sleeps. Asuka and Yoshida stay around at her residence after school. As soon as they enter, they hear her parents yelling at each other. While her mother is having an affair with a younger guy, her father is likely to lose his job. Yoshida is taken to Asuka's chamber after she instructs him to ignore them. He sees empty dishes and plates outside a door on the way. Asuka has a twin brother called Keisuke. Even in primary school, he used to excel in academics. He never received anything less than a perfect score. But that was before he failed the high school entrance exam one day. Therefore the defeat was very painful for him. He is constantly playing games on the computer and doesn't interact with anyone. After speaking about her brother, Asuka pouts. Yoshida goes to the store to get them food so that she can feel better. Their instruction is grading the exam papers elsewhere. Both the shrine and the teacher's spectacles abruptly begin to light. Asuka phones Yoshida and inquires as to why things are taking so long. She receives a text message from a classmate shortly after the call informing her that Yoshida is in serious difficulty. It turns out that he has been chosen to lead Japan as Prime Minister. The interviews in which he poses as the Prime Minister are very popular. Asuka still doesn't understand how her lover became the Prime Minister as she leaves for school the next day. The school is also hearing many additional reports regarding missing presidents from various nations. When the teacher arrives with the graded papers, he gives Asuka hers while grinning broadly. She passed the test despite leaving the majority of the questions blank. She sees that Yoshida was appointed Prime Minister as a result of her exam answer. Similar to how the leaders of other nations are disappearing, she left all the other questions unanswered. She received her desire but not in the way she expected. She searches online for all the correct responses and records them on the exam paper to atone for her error. Fortunately, the strategy is successful, and Yoshida is let go on his first day of work. Instantaneously, all of the presidents from across the world are located, and everything returns to normal. The next exam is then due. Asuka is less anxious this time since if she makes a mistake on a math test, little will change. Yoshida sees Asuka once again after school and explains to her why he was let go. Before disclosing the truth about her odd gift, Asuka soothes him. Yoshida challenges her to provide writing as evidence since he doesn't trust her. A tower amid the town begins to tremble before she can stop it. This is a result of a math exam error she made. The pair dashes to the teacher's chamber and fixes it, returning the tower to its normal shape. The location of the former temple on their way home. It has entirely disappeared. They are unable to seek the name again since they cannot recall it. Asuka must now work hard to learn and correctly answer all the questions if she wants to rescue the world. She settles down to study that evening, determined to do her best. The next scene shows Asuka and Yoshida waiting outside the teacher's room for him to mark the most recent exam papers. Asuka receives the predicted full marks, but she hopes she won't have a major impact on the world. Her father is ecstatic to see her when she gets home since he just closed the greatest transaction of his career. In the last test, Asuka unintentionally noted that tap water is the most important source of energy. This increased the need for water purifiers, which in turn increased her father's wealth. After watching her father smile, she briefly experiences terror but decides to maintain the status quo for the time being. Later that day, some riots are reported to be occurring worldwide over water. Asuka immediately fixes the answer sheet and returns the universe to normal as things spiral out of control. She suddenly has the bright notion to use her influence to end her parents' divorce. She is asked the name of an astronaut who is going to embark on a lengthy space mission during the ensuing exam. She writes down the name of her mother's lover and sends him into space. After his departure, she begins to concentrate on her family and her husband. The quality of Asuka's life was perfect. Her twin brother Keisuke is the only person she needs to assist right now. She states in the subsequent exam that her brother would appear and greet everyone good morning. Keisuke doesn't emerge from his room as she had anticipated since their father enters and coerces him into leaving. The family fights a lot over this. It is discovered that her mother has been messaging other men and that her father has once more been threatened with being fired. Asuka ultimately realizes that using the power to solve her issues will only be a temporary solution. She begins genuinely attempting to communicate with her sibling. She waits outside his door every day and studies aloud as he is still a brilliant student. Keisuke is bothered by the faults she makes, but he doesn't correct her for a few days. Later, she tries skipping a math issue because it is too challenging one day. For the first time, Keisuke communicates with her and shows her the solution. Asuka begins studying more diligently as a result of her brother's advice. Her father begins to study books written for salespeople and puts more effort into his business. Her mother purges all of her lover's phone numbers to prioritize her family. A week later, Asuka completes an exam on her own and receives all A's. She rushes to Keisuke to tell him the good news, but he still won't answer the door. Asuka and her dad are having breakfast at the table the next morning. Keisuke surprises them by greeting them as he arrives downstairs. He apologizes to his father for giving up and vows to change for the best going forward. The first exam paper is discovered by Asuka and Yoshida one day while, since she received a score of just 5 out of 100, she had ripped it. The entrance to the shrine is suddenly formed as she assembles the parts. She doesn't realize that her initial response was about a wish-granting shrine called Gachimo until later. It must have caused the shrine to appear. The couple soon visits the shrine and pleads for the request to be reversed and for everything to return to normal. When nothing changes after they wait for anything to happen, they get disappointed. The instructor takes yet another test at school, this one covering global geography and population. Asuka suddenly recalls that the temple only granted her request as a result of her offering a penny. She will need to return the coin if she wants to grant the desire again. She finishes the test fast and rushes to return it. The coin is secured in a locked container. She almost succeeds in removing it by using a stick. Keisuke and his parents are discussing his future in another location. He is glad that the break is now over and is looking forward to the future. His mother regrets having caused her husband so much stress. The family reconciles their disagreements in a single session. Asuka's teacher is simultaneously grading the most recent test as we watch. When he goes to Asuka's paper, she received her typical 100. She unintentionally throws the coin back into the chest at the same moment. The coin suddenly casts a brilliant light on her. No one is in front of the shrine a few seconds later. It appears as though everyone has suddenly disappeared from the whole city and planet. Asuka failed to correctly answer the last question on the latest test, as seen in the last scene. What is the population of the entire planet today? Humans ceased to exist since Asuka left it empty.